Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you yet again another Discussion of the Week video segment right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Discussion of the Week video segment. But before I jump into this week's discussion topic, I want to go ahead and give you all a few updates. Number one, I want to apologize for this week's videos being uploaded so late. But this week has been a very busy week for me, a very hectic schedule, and so once again I want to apologize for that. Number two, unfortunately I have decided to officially discontinue the OAW Grand Prix. There are various reasons for this, but the main reasons being that the OAW Grand Prix was a project that I was not fully prepared to undertake. There were so many other factors at play that I did not take in consideration when I decided to go ahead and attempt this project, and so that, along with the scheduling conflicts and the technical difficulties, it was just too big of a project to try and get done in 3 weeks. So I've decided to go ahead and discontinue that. And because of the challenges I faced with this one, I don't think I'll pick that back up. Who knows? Right now I'm not planning to pick that back up. So I want to thank you all who showed your support for the first video. But like I said, and also I want to thank all of my fellow YouTubers who participated. I want to thank you all. But yeah, it was just too big of a project that I just wasn't prepared for. And number three will be, once again, changes in the uploading schedule. I have just learned that Saturday, April 14th, 2012 will be the debut of The Legend of Korra. And as you all know, way back when I said that I would review Thundercats Season 2 and The Legend of Korra, because, well, I thought they were going to come out in the summer. I didn't expect both series to come out in the spring. So, as I said, I'm going to be reviewing both those series. As you know, Thundercats Season 2 kicks off next Saturday. And then, like I said, Legend of Korra is on April 14th. So what's going to happen is, well, now that I've discontinued the Grand Prix, I actually have a free uploading day on Saturday, which will be filled in with Thundercats. And then when The Legend of Korra comes out on April 14th, I will go ahead and I'll tack that on with Thundercats for Saturday. So you will be getting 2 uploads on Saturdays once The Legend of Korra starts. But with that said, first off, I want to thank all of you all for voting in last week's Discussion of the Week video, when I asked you all if you wanted to see either Thundercats or Smallville reviews on Saturday. Actually, the votes are tied last time I checked. But here's the thing: now that Legend of Korra is going to be uploaded on Saturday, I can go ahead and officially postpone the Smallville reviews until the summer. So that's what's going to happen with that. So once again, I want to thank you all who voted. And so, yeah, on with this week's topic. Now, this week's topic comes from, I hope I pronounced this correctly, it's Blue Shaik? Wait, Blue Hole. I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize for that. Anyway, but he is one of the Otaku Faithful, one of my faithful subscribers. So I'm pretty sure if he's watching this video, you know I'm talking about you, dude. Or is it Blue Hosek? Or Hoshek? Maybe that's how you pronounce it. Anywho, but he says he recommends uses of historical reference in media / Hollywood. When are they appropriate? What creative / censorship liberties are acceptable? When is it or can it be appropriate? Inspired by my recent viewing of Captain America. So I think the discussion topic at hand here is the use of historical references in media. That's what it is. When is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? What creative liberties or what censorship liberties can be taken with it? Okay, so what's my take on that? Now, I've said multiple times in past videos that I'm a huge fan of historical fiction. I love historical fiction. I find it very entertaining because it's like you're getting a history lesson, but you're being told a story at the same time. My favorite examples of historical fiction, The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexander Dumas. That's a historical fiction. Also by Alexander Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo, one of my all-time favorite stories. That's a historical fiction. To use more recent examples, you have Rurouni Kenshin, the anime and manga. That's a historical fiction. Vagabond. That's a historical fiction. Let's see, other historical fiction. Oh, Inglourious Bastards. That's a historical fiction. So there was another one I wanted to mention. So on the tip of my tongue. Well, technically 300 is a historical fiction because yeah, that's a historical fiction. A more faithful historical fiction, well, faithful in events, fiction in the matter in which they happen. So anyway, but yeah, so like I said, Last Samurai, that too is a historical fiction. So like I said, I enjoy historical fiction because, to reiterate a point, it's like you're getting a history lesson and you're being told a story all at the same time, simultaneously. Also, I enjoy the fact that historical fictions, they use history as a backdrop to tell their stories. And I don't mind that, because what happens is, by doing so, what you're doing is you're giving your story more, you're allowing your story to have more depth without having to go the lengths to create it. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not saying it's a shortcut, but what I'm saying is, it's like, if you have like a high fantasy piece, then you're talking about a world that's completely created by that author. You're talking about characters, creatures, settings, cities, towns, countries, worlds, completely invented by the author. And, you know, with that, you're talking about world building, you're talking about mythology, you're talking about all of this that the author has come up with. When you do historical fiction, not so much. Why? Because the author is using the historical context to create a new story. So what you have is, you have an author who doesn't have to put as much effort in developing the world building of their story, because they're using the real world as a backdrop. And instead, they can use their energy to weed in the elements of their story with the historical backdrop. You see what I'm saying? It's a different technique of storytelling. And to me, it's one that I enjoy because you don't have to focus so much on the imaginative. You can use the real world as a backdrop, and that's when the creativity comes forward. How do you invent a creative story when you're placing yourself within the parameters of historical context? That's what I like about historical fiction. Alright, so okay, so when is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? Okay. To tie into my the explanation I just gave, I think, well, like I said, I think historical fiction is appropriate when the historical context is relevant in the story. Like, what I'm saying is this: if you write a story that takes place during World War II and the story has absolutely nothing to do with World War II, that's out of context. I don't see what the point of that is. So that's when I think it's inappropriate, when it doesn't have any context. When do I think that it is appropriate? Like I said, when you use it to help give depth or to help push the narrative of your story. That's when it's appropriate. Okay? So it's appropriate when it's relevant. It's inappropriate when it's not relevant. And what creative or censorship liberties are acceptable? Well, that depends on the story. If you are writing a historical fiction that still falls within the lines of history, then of course you can't take too many. The number of creative liberties you can take is limited. Why? Because you can't change history. That's the thing. So, like I said, it depends on the story. Case in point, The Last Samurai. All right, take The Last Samurai for an example. The Last Samurai is The Last Samurai is a historical fiction, but it is loosely based off of a real life story. I gotta put that in air quotations because so many different renditions of this story has been told, but it's the story of the Westerner who comes to Japan and who takes up Bushido and the way of the warrior and the samurai culture, belief system, and lifestyle during the end of the Warring States era at the very beginning of the Meiji Restoration period. That actually did happen in Japan, but like I said, there's been so many renditions of that story that as far as a true story, it's kind of hard to gauge, the historical context of that one. But like I said, okay, The Last Samurai, once again, is a rendition of that story. Like I said, they take creative liberties with that story, but they don't change the context of history. The events that take place in the movie did occur in history, and the ending falls in line with what happened in history. You see what I'm saying? Whereas, same thing, 300 is faithful in the sense that the events that occur still happen. Like, the way the Battle of Thermopylae ended, that's what happened in real life. Now, the manner in which it happened is different because, of course, 300 is much more flashy, much more gory, it's more stylized than what actually took place, that's Frank Miller's spin on what happened. But like I said, the events everything resulted in the same way. Like it did in history, that's how it resulted in 300. So, like I said, loose, but it still follows. Then we get to something like Inglourious Basterds, which completely rewrites the context of history. Like I said, it depends on the story you're trying to tell. If you're trying to make everything line up with historical events, then creative liberties are limited. If you're not, then by all means, be as creative as you want to because you're rewriting the history. Now, like I said, does that mean that it's inappropriate because you're rewriting it? No, as long as you keep it relevant. So, like Inglourious Basterds took place during World War II. They rewrote the history. Why? Like I said, not bad. But why do I consider that to be appropriate? Because they kept World War II as the main focus of the film. If they made a big deal about the Nazis and then it turned into a story about a journalist who left Germany because she was disgusted by the bastards, that has absolutely nothing to do with the context of World War II. You've taken the war and you've brought it up, but then you've just tossed it to tell us the story of a journalist. You see what I'm saying? That's the type of shit where I think it's inappropriate because you've completely blurred, you've completely disregarded your historical context to begin with. Okay, so yeah, that'll wrap up this week's discussion. I know I kind of rambled, or I don't really know if it came off as coherent. It did appear. But like I said, this was another discussion topic that I kind of had to sit back and really think of. And like I said, I do these off the cuff, so. But once again, I want to go ahead and thank Blue Hosek or Hoshek, however you pronounce that. But I want to thank you for your suggestion. I want to thank everyone who thumbed that one up. And like I said, in the comments below, leave suggestions for next week's discussion topic. And of course, yeah, gotta thumb up the ones that you see that you like, because that's the one I do the video on next week. The ones with the most thumbs up. So what to keep an eye out for later this weekend, well, tomorrow and then Monday. Tomorrow will be my recap of The Ultimate Fighter 15. I'm actually doing episode 2. I'm skipping episode 1, and I'll tell you all why in that video. So, in case you're wondering, or maybe I can do them both. I don't know. We'll find out. But that's going to be uploaded tomorrow, and then my month of Miyazaki review of Howl's Moving Castle will be uploaded on Monday. So, with that said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off, and until next time, peace.